I was slicing carrots in the kitchen when my 5-year-old daughter tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, can I please stop taking the special pills Grandma gives me?" My blood froze. My mother-in-law had always insisted they were just vitamins to help her stay calm and focused. I forced myself to stay calm. "Sweetie, go get the bottle for me, okay?" When the doctor finally saw it, his face turned white as a sheet. He slammed the bottle down on the exam table and shouted, "This is lorazepam, an adult anti-anxiety medication. Who in their right mind has been giving this to a child? Do you have any idea how dangerous this is?" But before I tell you the full shocking story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. We'd also love to know, where in the world are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments below. Now, let's dive right into this unbelievable story. The warm late afternoon sunlight streamed through the kitchen window of our small 2-bedroom apartment, painting soft golden patches across the faded linoleum floor. Michael Hayes stood at the counter, the steady rhythm of his knife against the cutting board the only sound breaking the quiet. Onions first, then potatoes, then the chicken he'd picked up on sale that morning. Cooking had become his anchor ever since losing Emily 2 years ago. In the living room behind him, his daughter Ava hummed softly while arranging her stuffed animals into an elaborate tea party on the carpet. 5 years old, with her mother's wavy auburn hair and his own hazel eyes, she was completely absorbed in her little world. Michael glanced over his shoulder and felt a small smile tug at his lips. These quiet moments with Ava were everything. Riverside, Oregon, was a sleepy town of barely 4,500 people, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, where the local diner still served bottomless coffee in heavy ceramic mugs, and the only grocery store closed promptly at 8 p.m. Michael had grown up here, left for college in Portland, and returned when Emily got pregnant. They'd planned to stay just long enough to save money before moving somewhere bigger. That was 6 years ago. 2 years ago, Emily had been driving home from her teaching job when a distracted driver ran a stop sign. The doctors said it was instant. That didn't make it hurt any less. "Daddy?" Michael turned, knife still in hand. Ava stood at the edge of the kitchen, clutching the doorframe, her little face uncertain. "Yes, princess." She shuffled closer, twisting the hem of her shirt. "Can I ask you something important?" He set the knife down, wiped his hands on the dish towel, and crouched to her level. "Of course. Anything." Ava leaned in and whispered, "Can I stop taking the special pills Grandma gives me? They make me so sleepy, even when it's not bedtime." A cold knot formed in Michael's stomach. He kept his voice gentle. "What pills, baby?" "The white ones in the little bottle. Grandma says they help me be calm and good." His heart started pounding. "When does Grandma give them to you?" "When she picks me up from preschool on Thursdays, and sometimes on weekends when she comes over." Michael's mind raced. Margaret Ellison, Emily's mother, had been a lifeline after the accident. She'd pick Ava up when Michael's shifts at the lumber mill ran late, watch her on weekends, bring homemade meals when he was too exhausted to cook. At first, he'd been endlessly grateful. But gradually, her help had started feeling more like control. She criticized everything, the clothes he put Ava in, the snacks he gave her, his bedtime routine. A retired nurse with over 30 years of experience, she always acted like she knew best, pushing supplements, herbal teas, natural remedies, for every little thing. But actual prescription pills? "Ava, do you know where the bottle is right now?" She nodded. "In my backpack. Grandma says I have to keep it safe." Michael followed her to the entryway where her pink backpack hung on a hook. She unzipped the front pocket and pulled out a small amber prescription bottle. His hands were steady as he took it, but inside he was shaking. The label read clearly, "Margaret Ellison. Lorazepam 1 mg. Take as needed for anxiety." Lorazepam. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew enough, this was a strong sedative for adults. Not for children. Never for children. He opened it and counted, only 7 pills left out of 30 filled just 3 weeks ago. 23 gone. How many does Grandma give you at a time? Just 1 usually, but sometimes 2 if I'm being too bouncy. Michael felt rage rising like a tidal wave, but he pushed it down. You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. You're so brave for telling me. Now get your shoes, we're going to see Dr. Patel right now. Ava's eyes widened. Am I in trouble? No, baby, he said, pulling her into a hug. Daddy just wants to make sure you're okay. 25 minutes later, they were in his old pickup truck heading to the town's pediatric clinic. Ava sat in her booster seat, swinging her legs and singing along to the radio, while Michael gripped the steering wheel and the pill bottle so tightly his knuckles turned white. The waiting room was quiet, just an older couple with their grandson and a mom with a fussy toddler. Michael approached the desk. I need Dr. Patel to see my daughter immediately. Someone has been giving her prescription medication without my permission. The receptionist's eyes widened. She picked up the phone and called back urgently. Within minutes, they were in an exam room. Dr. Patel, a kind, no-nonsense pediatrician in his late 50s whom Michael trusted completely, walked in, took one look at the bottle Michael held out, and froze. Michael, this is lorazepam. You're telling me someone has been giving this to Ava? Her grandmother. My mother-in-law. Dr. Patel's face darkened. He turned to Ava with a gentle smile. Hi, Ava. I'm just going to check a few things, okay? It won't hurt. The exam lasted nearly 40 minutes. He checked her pulse, reflexes, eyes, asked gentle questions about how she'd been feeling, sleepy all the time. Dizzy? Trouble concentrating? When it was over, he asked Michael to step into the hallway. Michael, he said quietly, this medication is absolutely not approved for children. In adults it's used for severe anxiety or seizures. In a child Ava's age, it can cause respiratory depression, cognitive delays, developmental issues, even addiction with prolonged use. She's showing clear signs, lethargy, slowed responses, excessive sleepiness. Michael's fists clenched. Is she going to be okay? She's young and resilient. If she stops now, the effects should fully reverse. But if this had continued, or if the dose increased, we could be looking at permanent damage. He paused, his expression grave. This wasn't an accident, Michael. Someone made a deliberate choice to give a child powerful adult medication without consent. I'm required by law to report this to Child Protective Services. And honestly, you should involve the police. They drove home in silence. Ava fell asleep almost instantly in her seat, her breathing deep and heavy, far too heavy for a 5-year-old. That night, Michael carried her to bed, tucked her in, and sat in the rocking chair beside her, same chair he'd used for midnight feedings when she was a baby, same chair he'd rocked her in after nightmares about losing mommy. He watched her sleep, the rise and fall of her chest, and felt a fierce, protective fire ignite inside him. Margaret had done this on purpose. She'd lied to Ava, put her at risk, treated her like an experiment. Why? He'd tolerated Margaret's interference because he thought it came from grief and love. Emily had been her only child. Losing her had shattered Margaret too. He'd tried to keep the peace for Ava's sake. But this? This was unforgivable. He stayed by Ava's bed until the early hours, making silent promises in the dark. He was done being understanding. He was done keeping the peace. His daughter's safety came first, always. The next morning, Sunday, Michael made pancakes, got Ava settled with cartoons, then drove straight to Margaret's house. She lived in a neat little craftsman bungalow on Cedar Street, the house Emily grew up in. Michael had spent countless holidays there, asked Margaret for Emily's hand at that very kitchen table. Now, as he pulled into the driveway, all he felt was cold resolve. Margaret answered the door in her robe and slippers, gray hair in a loose bun, smiling warmly. Michael. What a nice surprise. Is Ava with you? No, he said flatly. We need to talk. Out here. Her smile wavered. What's wrong? You look upset. You've been giving Ava lorazepam. Your prescription. 4 weeks. Her face went still. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I have the bottle. 23 pills gone. Ava told me everything, how they make her sleepy, how you give her extra when she's bouncy. For just a second, the grandmother mask slipped, and Michael saw something colder beneath. Well, Margaret said defensively, Ava has been so difficult lately, emotional, defiant. You're always at work. I was only trying to help her calm down. A tiny dose never hurt anyone. I'm a nurse, I know what's safe. Safe? Michael's voice rose before he caught it. Dr. Patel said it could have caused brain damage, breathing problems, permanent harm. Margaret waved a hand dismissively. Doctors today are so dramatic. In my 35 years, we used common sense. A little sedation helps children behave. Michael stared at her, the complete lack of remorse, the justification. This wasn't grief. This was something darker. You're never coming near Ava again, he said quietly. No visits. No calls. Nothing. Her eyes flashed with anger. You can't do that. She's my granddaughter, I have rights. You lost any rights when you decided to drug a 5-year-old. How dare you, she hissed. I've been there for you since Emily died, cooking, babysitting, holding everything together while you grieved. Michael looked at her, really looked, and saw the calculation behind the indignation. He turned and walked back to his truck without another word. As he drove away, she shouted after him, "You'll regret this, Michael. You need me, you can't raise her alone." But he didn't look back. Over the next week, Michael rearranged his entire schedule, no more gaps where Margaret could step in. He watched Ava like a hawk, and the changes were immediate. She was brighter, more energetic, laughing more, playing longer. Her preschool teacher even commented on how much more engaged she'd become. But the question gnawed at him every night, why? Why would Margaret do this? The answer came from an unexpected phone call. A woman named Rebecca Norris introduced herself as a research coordinator at Pacific Health Studies, a small private lab just outside town that ran clinical trials and observational studies. "Mr. Hayes," she said hesitantly, "I've been debating whether to call, but after hearing about the medication incident, I think you need to know something." Michael's grip tightened on the phone. "Go on." For the past 4 months, Margaret Ellison has been submitting detailed observational logs on a child's response to low-dose sedatives, sleep patterns, behavior changes, compliance levels, cognitive effects. We pay participants $550 a month for high-quality long-term data, especially on medications with limited pediatric studies. She claimed full parental authorization and submitted signed consent forms. The room spun. "You're telling me she was being paid to document how the drugs affected my daughter?" The age and timeline match perfectly. When I heard about the lorazepam being discovered, I realized what might have been happening. I'm so sorry, I should have verified the signatures more carefully. She was always so professional, so detailed. Michael closed his eyes. It wasn't about helping Ava be calm. It wasn't even misguided concern. Margaret had been using her own granddaughter as a paid research subject, for months. He asked Rebecca to preserve every document, every log, every payment record. Then he went back to Dr. Patel, who provided a full medical report documenting the risks and Ava's symptoms. Piece by piece, Michael built an airtight case. He photographed Margaret's personal notebook when retrieving Ava's forgotten toys from her house, entries matching the lab logs exactly, complete with earnings calculations and submission reminders. He even found a saved voicemail on her phone, using the old "my battery died" trick, where she reminded herself, extra research deposit came in, finish weekly report on subject A's sleep patterns. Extra research deposit. That's what Ava had been to her grandmother, extra income. With a thick folder of evidence, Michael walked into the Riverside Police Department. Detective Laura Chen reviewed everything: medical reports, lab documents, forged consent forms, payment records, the pill bottle, the notebook photos. When she looked up, her expression was grim. "Mr. Hayes, this is child endangerment, administering a controlled substance without authorization, fraud, forgery, and conducting unauthorized human subjects research on a minor. These are felonies." 2 days later, Margaret was arrested at her home. Neighbors saw the whole thing, officers at the door, Margaret in her robe protesting loudly, "This is ridiculous. I had permission. It's just medical data, perfectly legal." But when shown the forged signatures, she went silent. The trial revealed an even darker pattern. Margaret's ex-husband, Emily's father, Thomas, testified about similar behavior decades earlier: unexplained illnesses, unnecessary medications, symptom journals Margaret claimed were for research payments. Former colleagues from her nursing career spoke, off-record at first, then officially, about unauthorized observations, adjusted dosages, quiet firings after complaints. The jury saw the logs, cold, clinical entries treating Subject A like a lab animal. Subject A exhibited drowsiness within 40 minutes of 1 milligram dose. Compliance markedly improved. Second dose administered due to resistant behavior. Sleep onset rapid. They heard Margaret crack on the stand, admitting the money helped with bills, then trying to backtrack. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 2 days. Guilty on every count. At sentencing, the judge didn't hold back. "You saw a vulnerable child and saw dollar signs. You betrayed family, trust, and basic humanity, for profit. 5.5 years in state prison, followed by probation, no unsupervised contact with minors, full restitution." Margaret protested until the very end, but the gavel fell. Today, Ava is thriving, bright, curious, full of energy and joy. She started kindergarten strong, made friends instantly, and fills our home with laughter again. We have new traditions: Saturday morning pancakes, park picnics, bedtime stories about brave little girls who stand up to monsters. And though she only asked about Grandma once, "Why doesn't she visit anymore?" Michael answered honestly, "She made unsafe choices, sweetie. But you're safe now, that's what matters." Ava accepted it and moved on. Kids are resilient like that. One night, as Michael watched Ava sleep peacefully, no more unnatural stillness, he whispered to the quiet room, "I protected you, baby girl. Just like Mommy would have wanted." And in that promise kept, he found peace. What would you have done if this happened to your child? Let us know in the comments, and please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. See you in the next one.